Hi loves, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to make a pencil skirt with vents or overlap slits at the back. Okay, so if this is what you are interested in learning, please stick around and let's get started. Here are the fabrics I'm going to be using. Right here on top my table, I have my lining, which is the black fabric you can see, and then I have my actual piece for this skirt. Okay, so for my lining, I'm making use of 1.5 yards of lining because this is by 60. If you are making use of lining of by 45, you might be needing 2 yards of lining. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and fold our fabric, and to fold you're going to be making use of the biggest part of your client's or your own body measurement. So for this my client, her biggest body part for the skirt is her hip circumference. So I'm going to have to divide this hip circumference by 4. Whatever it is that I have, I'm going to consider that I'll be inputting sewing allowance of 2 inches, and then I'll be adding extra 2 inches so that I will be on the safer side. Okay, now I'm going to cut out the place that has like the brand of this fabric. Please do well to cut that out, and from there I'm going to go ahead and go down by 1/2 inch and mark my line across. Now this line is going to be our waistline. Now on this waistline, I'm going to go ahead and minus 1.5 inches for my band, that is the skirt band, and then I would go down and mark out my hip point. So my hip point here is 8 inches. I'm going to mark. Now, still leaving my tape on that line, I'm going to go ahead and mark the knee line, 19 inches. Okay, and then still leaving the tape on that same waistline, I'm going to go ahead and mark out the length of the skirt. So for this client, I'm going to be making use of 40 inches. That is our skirt length, but it's not going to stop there because we'll be needing 2 inches for hemming allowance. Okay, that is turning of the skirts, the down part of the skirt. So after I am okay with all these lines, I'm going to go ahead and draw my lines across. Okay, so you can see what I am doing. Repeat the same thing and we move over to input all our body measurements. So we are going to go back to the waistline. Now on this waistline, the first thing you're going to do is to divide your waist circumference by 4. Whatever it is that you have, you go ahead and mark it out and then add 1 inch for that allowance, and then input 2 inches or 1.5 inches for your sewing allowance. Now going down to the hip line, divide your hip circumference by 4. Whatever it is that you have, go ahead and mark it out and add 2 inches for sewing allowance. Now on the knee line, you're going to have to remove 6 inches from your hip circumference and then divide whatever you have by 4, or you can go ahead and after you divide your hip circumference by 4, whatever it is that you have right there, minus 1.5 inches from there, and then you go ahead and mark. After you mark this, input 2 inches as well for your sewing allowance. Now whatever you have on the knee line, that is what you are going to input at the hemline. So go ahead and input this and then you connect all your lines. So I'm going to start from the waist. I would connect to the hip and then down to the knee line and then straight down to the hem line. Okay, so you can see how I'm connecting this line. It is that simple. So after we are done with this, you're going to go ahead and input your dart, okay? But first of all, go ahead and cut out whatever you have on this front, okay? So after you cut it, but you can actually input your dart before you cut this out, okay? So from the folded part of this my skirt, I'm going to come in by 4.5 inches. So this is gotten from my nipple to nipple divided by 2. Now on the hip line, you're going to come up by 2 inches. Okay, that is it for your front dart. Okay, and on the 4.5 inches mark, you're going to come in from both sides by half an inch, and then you connect your dart legs. Okay, so this is it. Don't forget to notch your darts, and then we move over to the back. Okay, and now for the back, you're going to go ahead and fold your fabric again. Okay, so I am trying to fold my fabric right now. Then after folding, I'm going to first of all, from the folded part of this my back piece, I'm going to go ahead and mark out about 4 to 5 inches. Okay, remember that this is an overlapping skirt, or a skirt with a vent at the back. So first of all, you're going to have to come down by half an inch, okay, which is going to be the waistline or your starting line. And once you are done from the folded part, go ahead and come in by 4 to 5 inches. It depends on how overlap you want the skirt, okay? So after you are done, go ahead and connect all your lines, and then you bring in the front piece so you can see. So after that line, place in your front piece, and then what you're going to do is to go ahead and cut out the brand label. Okay, like I told you before, and exactly what you have on the front, you're going to follow that line and trace it out. You can see what I am doing. All right, so I'm going to cut it out before we work on this overlap. So now after this, go ahead and also notch your dart. Okay, now on the waistline, you are going to have to connect your lines just like this, and also on the knee line and the hip line. Okay, now on the hip line, you are going to have to go out by half an inch. Okay, this is for the butt allowance. And then place your tape on the waistline, and then go down to 15 inches. This is actually for the crack. Okay, I don't know if you understand. And you're going to have to connect it into the waistline just like this. Okay, so after you are done with that, go ahead and mark out your sewing allowance. So on the waistline, I'm going to take 1.5 inches. On the hip line, I'll take 2 inches. And then on the knee line again, I'm going to take 1.5 inches. So I will simply go ahead and connect all my lines just like this. Okay, so you can see what I am having. I'm not going to mark my zipper allowance down to the hemline, okay, because this is an overlapping skirt. So what I'm going to do is that my zipper allowance should end on the knee line. But if you want to take it down more, you can actually go ahead and take it down more. So I would go ahead and cut it out. You can see the way I cut it out. Don't forget to notch your zipper allowance. Okay, now that I'm done with my zipper allowance, next thing is for me to go ahead and slit the other remaining parts just like this. Can you see what I am doing? So once you are done with this, from the waist of my front, I'm going to go down by 1.5 inches. Okay, so this is because we want our skirts to relax properly well at the front. Okay, so it will help your skirts to relax properly well. Okay, so now once you are done, the next thing we are going to be cutting out is our band. Okay, to cut out your waistband, you're going to be using your waist circumference to cut this out. Okay, so for this client, her waist circumference is actually 40 inches. So I'm using the full length of this fabric, which is 45 inches. That was what I actually used. It's better to have XX than to run short of this band. Okay, so the width of the band is on fold 3 inches. If I open this up, I'm going to be having 6 inches. I'm equally going to fuse in paper gum, the lightest type of interface, into it, although I did that off camera. Now I'm about to cut out the lining. So I folded my lining and I'm cutting it out. Now the lining is going to be 2 inches shorter than the actual fabric. By the time we start joining this together, you're going to understand why this is, okay, because we want to attain a neat finishing on the down part of the skirt. Okay, so guys, this is actually the back. Okay, I'm cutting it out as well, and please don't forget to place all your important notches. And once you are done with all of this, you are also equally going to minus 2 inches from the lining. Okay, so for the front, the fabric is going to be 2 inches longer than the lining. That goes for the back as well. Okay, so for the back, I'm going to also minus 2 inches from the lining. Okay, so I'm going to do it right now so that you guys can see. Okay, so I'm trying to mark out 2 inches so I will be able to fold. Okay, so after I mark my line across, I'm going to fold it just like this, and then go ahead and cut out my lining. So can you see? Now that we are done with this, let me turn it over and then mark the wrong part. Okay, so it's very important that you indicate the wrong part with your chalk. All right, so once you are done with this, I've actually gone ahead to mark out my darts. Can you see what I have right there? So I'm going to mark out my dart on the lining, because when I finish sewing this, the lining is actually the one that is going to be at the top, right? So you want to see your dart to be able to hold it. So that was why you can see that I marked out my dart. So to sew this, you're going to have to sew the down part first. So use half an inch to sew the down part, and then you top stitch towards the lining side. And after that, you're going to have to bring your lining to match up with the actual fabric, and you go ahead and hold it with about quarter of an inch on the side. Okay, so once you are done with this, you're going to repeat the same thing to the back. So this is my back actual fabric and the lining. So you can see I've actually marked my dart out. I'm going to go ahead and sew using half an inch. I'm going to start doing this from the hemline. So I would sew half an inch right there and top stitch. And then after that, I will bring it up just like this for it to match up. And then next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and use quarter of an inch to hold these places just like this. Can you see what I'm showing you right now? So I'm going to hold it from that part and then down to the hem. So this is what I'm going to go ahead and do on my machine. And you guys, after I did this and turned over, gave this a good press, this is what I have. You can see how the damp part looks like. So I'm going to go over to my sewing machine right now and hold my darts. Okay, so you guys, you can see what we have. Okay, so this is for the back. I'm going to equally hold the darts and then hold the zipper allowance. Okay, now for the zipper allowance, from the waistline to about 9 inches down, I'm going to hold it with a loose stitch, and then from the that 9 inches downwards, I'm going to hold it with a tight stitch. Okay guys, before I sew up my zipper allowance, I'm going to ensure that my front skirt and the down part aligns properly well. You can see me checking it. Okay, and once I am satisfied with what I have, I'm going to go ahead and mark out my zipper allowance. So I'm going to first of all remove half an inch for joining my waistband, and from this half an inch I'm going to go down and mark out the hip line. Okay, now on the hip line I'm going to come out by 3/4 of an inch, and then I would connect it to the knee line. Okay, just like this. Can you see what I am doing? And once I am done, I'm going to connect it into the allowance for the overlap. Okay, so guys, you can see you can equally connect this in a diagonal shape. Can you see? But then I want mine to be straight. So I am done sewing this. What I'm going to do next is to give this a notch. You want to give this a notch because you want that side to be relaxed. Okay, so I'm going to open this up, and you guys would see that our overlap has actually formed by itself. Okay, so you don't need much right here. The overlap, once you are done sewing it, it's going to form by itself. So what I'm going to do next is to go ahead and bring in hemming tape, and I'm going to use this, place it beneath, and then use my steam iron to hold it in place. Okay, so next thing, for our slit knot to loosen up on time, okay, to stay strong, I'm going to run a stitch on top this part. Okay, can you see? This is the line that I just marked out. I'm going to run a diagonal stitch. Okay, so once we are done with that, we are going to go ahead and shape our skirt. Okay, so guys, this is exactly how to make an overlap slit into your straight skirt. It is that simple. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and shape my skirt right now. So what I'm going to do is, from the top of my skirt, I'm going to minus 1.5 inches for my band and go down to 8 inches for the hip line, and then 19 inches for the knee line. Okay, so now locate the center, and from the center you're going to divide your hip circumference by 4. Whatever you have, mark it out on both sides. Okay, follow the center to mark it out on both sides. So repeat the same thing for both the waist, the hip, and the knee line, and down to the hem of your skirt. And once you are done, go ahead and connect all your lines together, and then go over to your sewing machine and join this up. Okay, so guys, the next thing you're going to see is the finishing result of this skirt. Okay, so guys, this is exactly how to make your overlap slits at the back of your skirts, or your vents at the back of your skirts. It is that simple, and if this video was helpful, please do make sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to share this particular video to get more people to see it. Okay, so I will go ahead and join the band and then show you the end result. Okay, please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done yet. I will see you in my next one. Bye.